Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Jen Explains. We have another experience exchange episode, which I'm so excited for. We have Sarah from Abracadabra.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Yay.
I appreciate it. I know you're a busy woman with all of your workshops.
Trying to be for sure.
So if you don't know Abracadabra, she is located on the second floor of 1731 Canal Street within Luna Luna. But if you were here probably like 2022 or earlier, Abracadabra used to be the whole store. She just consolidated, but she's not going anywhere.
Nope.
So yes, booked and busy. If you were curious about Sarah's big three, she is a Scorpio sun, Gemini moon, and Leo rising.
Yes.
Yes. What's so funny, a lot of my adult friends are Gemini moons.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like that's why we really connect.
That's the connection right there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But speaking of really connecting, so when David and I were looking at moving to Merced in 2021, we didn't know anything about Merced, and everyone just called it Murdead and Cowtown and all of these things. Unfortunate reputation that Merced had.
For sure.
Yeah, so we were just, strolling around, and then we saw this big store that said Abracadabra. I was like, that totally seems like my vibe. Yeah, and you were just so friendly and so cool looking, and your shop just had all of these wonderful oddities and things, and I was like, okay, Merced has some cool people. Merced has some culture, and honestly, on that trip, you were one of the main reasons why we moved here. That might sound creepy.
No, I mean, I like a stalker, I'm not offended by it. Well, that's not always true, but yes, a nice stalker is good.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's kind of exactly what I've always wanted to provide for people, is like a comfortable spot and something that feels calming to their soul, just a place where they could find kinship with other people, and we definitely did.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I could be myself in your space. Like, you have all of these cool like oddities that I don't even know where you find half the stuff.
My secrets.
Find. Yeah, seriously. But also, like, the more I started going into your store and like getting to know you and hanging out with you, I see how much the community like loves you and just like loves to be in your presence. So I've always wondered, and part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on is like, you provide such a safe space for the community, but did the community have that for you when you were a baby bat, a baby witch?
You know what? That is a great question. I think that I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a daughter, I'm an aunt, all these things. And growing up in Merced, it was a cow town. It was, there wasn't a whole lot of culture. We did have a space called the Alano Club, which old timers will recognize that name, little name drop there. There was Fatty Mocha. So there was a couple places where the black sheep of the community could meet up and go to shows or different things like that. But it definitely wasn't supportive of black sheep, for being a little different. There just wasn't a whole lot of culture in Merced, that's for sure. So it wasn't always a space where people like myself felt supported, that's for sure.
Yeah, not a lot of space for alternative culture. There was like one main culture and you had to fit in or be a little misfit.
Yeah. And I definitely was always actually, that is not altogether true. There are photographic evidence where I was like nerd braces, had my hair in little bangs, and looked totally not this today. So Sarah definitely evolved over time. The more freedom I got of expression, the more freedom I felt here in town to be able to be a little different. I definitely have evolved, but yeah, it's taken a minute, that's for sure.
And I love that. Scorpios are so evolutionary because they're ruled by Pluto, so I'm sure you had your phases.
Oh, it's constant. I've always really had a kinship with snakes because I'm constantly evolving and changing and shedding skin and reconstructing and all of that. So that's always been like a spirit animal for me, for sure.
Yeah, the more that we connected, the more that I found out that we had very similar roots, that we grew up very conservative. And it's like from very conservative religious to like where we are now. Yeah, so
polar opposites.
Absolutely.
Polar opposites. Yeah, it's crazy because my parents actually, I was born into a very Christian household. My grandparents are Christian. My parents are Christian. We attended Christian Life Center here in Merced for up until my early adulthood, and my parents actually owned a Christian bookstore, which I worked at.
Wow.
Dum dum dum. Until Sarah became a young unwed parent, and then it turned into the Scarlet Letter, to where I was only able to work there until I wasn't able to hide the pregnancy.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a lot to kind of navigate my way through that, but. So my parents are very well known in Merced for being religious people, for being business people. They owned multiple stores here in Merced. So being a Macias, people still are like, oh, you're Frank Macias's daughter, or, oh, they always know my dad. My dad was a shoe salesman, so all the local ladies would go to him for their work shoes. We were the first ones to sell Birkenstocks here in Merced.
Talk about alternative culture.
Oh my God. When that hit in the 90s, I was hooking my friends up in high school. I'm like, come over, we'll give you the discount on the Birks, and I always thought they were hideous, but they were super popular. So we're kind of breaking edge with that one, with the Jesus sandals. That's probably why they went for them, because they were Jesus sandals.
And it's so funny because they're not synonymous with like lesbian.
Yeah, exactly.
Lesbian Jesus sandals.
Little did they know, Mom and Pop, you were supplying all the lesbos in town.
That's so funny, but wow, that is wild. For better or for worse, we take after our parents in some ways, and you definitely got your entrepreneurial spirit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you came from a family of business people.
Yeah, we literally, my parents, the first business they had was on the Merced Mall, back when it was cool. And
back when it was popping.
Yeah, back when there were businesses and traffic and sidewalk sales. Compared to now, it's like a ghost town. I could literally see one of those freaking things roll through.
The tumbleweeds.
Yes, tumbleweeds, and hear the kind of thing. But back in the day, it was hopping. Like, that is the place you would go. Wow. And they had a shoe store, so I would get done with school. I went to a Christian school, of course, private school. Mm-hmm. But we'd get done and we'd go hang out in the back and do our homework. And then I started working for my parents when I was like 10, 11 years old.
Wow.
Back when you could have child labor, super cheap, $1 an hour, whatever I got paid. So growing up in a family business, and this is the shoe store, this wasn't the Christian bookstore, but growing up in the business, I definitely learned so much from them. And my dad was really well known in the business community for being just a really just and honest business person, and really good heart, and the community really appreciated him. So it was kind of a role I fell into as well without even knowing it.
Oh, wow. That's so wonderful. So did you stay in Merced your whole life, or did you ever move elsewhere?
I stayed in Merced a good part. Well, I moved to Portland. I got to live there, which I miss my Portland days, but I lived there for about 5 years in my early 20s, well, kind of mid-20s, mid to later 20s, and that was a blast. So
was it a culture shock, like from Merced to like big city Portland?
It was insane. Here in Merced, I got used to literally being able to walk from one side of town to the other, not get harassed, it was so small compared to big Portland. And as soon as I get there, there's shows and there's just so many aspects of life that I had never been around. And it was kind of a crazy situation that I just left with a backpack of stuff, hopped in my friend's VW bug, slipped all the way up there, and then with only a backpack kind of made my way and got a place to stay, got a job the second day I was there. Wow. So, I wasn't trying to stay on the streets or wasn't trying to be homeless, so you kind of had to get in and jump. But that was definitely a fun few years. Lots of culture shock, though. My God, that was like the first gay club I went to, the first porn store I ever went to, and ended up working at one. Sorry, Mom and Dad, if you watch this, close your ears. It was little quiet Sarah who at one point taught Sunday school. Like, can you believe it?
Wow,
I taught Sunday school. Yeah.
Oh my God, imagine Sunday school teacher.
Dude, when I tell people that, they're like, no way, but I did. I taught Sunday school. I was like a super active pro-lifer, which is not the stance I have today, that's for sure. But growing up in a really religious household, it wasn't like that was where my heart was. It was, I became kind of programmed, you know, and then used my powers for what I felt was good at the time. And yeah, that is not exactly how I would care. I've done a lot of healing from that because I didn't like looking back at that and seeing who I was back then. So it's taken a lot to get to this and being proud of this. But yeah, crazy. So Christian school, you know, Sunday school teacher, pro-lifer, and this is me today.
What would you say that you brought back from Portland when you moved back to Merced? Because I'm sure you just grew so much that there are things you brought with you.
It was a time of growth. Like for myself personally, I finally was out of my parents' bubble. So I got to learn who I was as an individual, for better or for worse. Like that's where I first realized that, yes, I'm bisexual. So I, you know, dated women, which was huge. I never would have done that in Merced. That is something that if I had not moved away, I don't think I ever would have delved into that part of me and into my character, and experiencing art like nothing I had ever experienced before. I mean, I went to private school, so we didn't have art class. We didn't have it. I'm a huge art. I love art. It's like passion in my soul. So I didn't have any of that. So moving to Portland, I got to experience just, I mean, it was mind-blowing. I almost felt like, you see those shows about the Amish kids who go on Rumspringa or whatever it is? I felt like that. I felt like I was living Sarah's best life.
Yes.
I mean, it's stuff that people who know me would never assume. Like, if you're familiar with the band Gwar, I went on stage with Gwar. Like, this is an insane. They spray people down with blood. It's a crazy show. It's like they're in costume. It's insane. So just things that I would never have been able to experience here, I got to live there. And then when I realized I needed to come back home, I didn't want to leave Portland behind. So I really wanted to, and I didn't want to be miserable here in Merced. You know, like I didn't want to live that sweet life that I had grown to have there and finding about myself and then ditch that. I wanted to be able to nurture myself still here. So I tried to bring as much of that as I could here, which kind of turned into leaning into arts and finding other artists here in town and people who were into the music scene. I remember when I came back, it was during like the rockabilly phase of the early 2000s, and I had like the Betty Bangs and I wore the cheetah print, and that was like my thing back then. I loved it.
Like pinup girl style?
Yes,
so cute.
Totally. Swing dancing and all that fun stuff. That was like my aesthetic style. And I remember I had come back, and things I would wear in Portland that would not get nobody's attention. Like, nobody would look twice at me. Here in Merced, I felt like the biggest weirdo. Like, I had boots that laced up to my knee, and then they had like a big chunky heel on. And here's Sarah walking down the street, coming from the thrift store, which was St. Vincent de Paul, or one of those that are no longer here. But here I am walking down the street in these giant Ace Frehley Kiss boots, and Merced just was not ready for that.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was definitely like, and then it kind of toned me down, because being this freak flag in a small town was tough. It was super tough.
At what point did you hit the life is too short to be in the closet in several ways, whether it's like the LGBT closet, the broom closet, like the freak closet.
All of the closets I busted out of. Wow, that is a lot of closets I had to jump out of.
Yeah, like at what point were you like, I'm gonna do me, I'm not gonna keep muting myself because I see that there are other people like me, they're just not in Merced or they're not out either?
So that question is kind of hard to answer because I think I'm still learning that today. I'm still getting comfortable with fully being who I want to be in public to this point. And then when I moved back, I have 3 kids, and my oldest, I was trying to gain full custody of him at the time. So being a black sheep freak flag in Merced was not something that's going to interpret well. I remember going to court and having to explain to the judge that, this is so crazy, because of my aesthetic and stuff, I was labeled as like an unfit mother, and they judged my appearance.
Wow.
And where I lived back then, I lived in the Tioga building, and they said it was full of like undesirables and pedos, so they wouldn't let me even have custody type stuff until I had moved out of there. So it was, Merced was just very close-minded, and anything different they were allergic to, and they wanted nothing to do with it. So it was a lot of breaking down stereotypes. Like I had to prove to people, I remember back then, I've always been, no, not always, since I was 21, I've been smoking recreationally. So Merced, you can assume that was not like an okay thing to do. And mind you, it was still illegal back then, so I can understand that. But I had come from Portland where it was homeopathic, you know, like people were really using that medicinally and prescribing that medicinally and doing that. So me using recreationally, I was considered like a drug addict. So I had to go get drug tested, you know, and I was like, I'll just quit smoking pot. Like it's okay. I can do this in order, of course I'm going to do that in order to regain custody of a kid, you know, or to get full custody. Yeah. But Merced just was like, no, we're not having anything to do with it, and you look alternative, so we're gonna make you jump through all these hoops so we know you're not just like a crazy weirdo.
But you did it.
I did it.
Hell yeah. Of course. She's determined.
It took me 5 years to go through the court system to get full custody of my son.
Wow.
But I did it, you know, and I kept having to prove like tattoos back then. Like, I mean, I remember having jobs where you had to fully cover any tattoo. Nobody got tattoos on their hands because you'd never get a job. Yeah. If you had, this is one of my older tattoos. So when I moved back from Portland, I got this in Portland, and it was unacceptable. So even jobs at the mall working at like, where was it? Miller Stockman or one of these, but you'd have to wear like full shirts to cover it. Nowadays, you see doctors, you see everybody fully tattooed up, maybe even neck or, you know,
face tattoos are becoming more common.
That I would never consider okay. I mean, I was considered like, you know, just this crazy rebel because I had a tattoo. Wow. So it was just so much work in the early 2000s to prove that just because you're alternative doesn't mean you're, you know, some deviant of society or some drug abused, you know, harlot, or, you know, just all these I love the word harlot. Just, you know, all these preconceived ideas that they had back then of alternative people.
When did you start to like feel the shift, or I guess when did fellow like weirdos start saying like, hey, I'm weird too and I really see you and I appreciate you?
Doing the little weirdo handshake or like the little wink. Or, actually, when I came to Merced, when I moved back, there was already a little community growing. Like we had a lot of, I was lucky enough when I moved back to Portland, there was a good music scene. There was a pretty big local musicians, you know, scene.
Was it like the punk scene?
No, it wasn't even punk. It was, I mean, there were some punk, but it was like a lot of, like my ex-husband was probably in like 6 or 7 local bands that were well known. Wow. You know, and some of my other friends and girlfriends and stuff were in different local bands. So the music scene was popping.
Good. Wow.
And the art scene was starting to take off. I remember one of the first things I did was connecting with other musicians, which leads to other artists, which leads to branching out and finding, oh, this musician also loves to paint. This musician also loves to do, they do poetry or whatever. So the music is kind of what drew people together, but through that we realized there was much more than that the passion of just the artist kind of flowed into other aspects.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And when did you start thrifting for oddities? You have like some of the coolest shit. You have like some of the more interesting things I've seen in your shop. Of all the interesting things,
I'm like, what are you gonna say?
Like a big deer head, and then like the twins, which is the what would you call
it's
them?
It's like an anatomical skeleton of twins.
Yeah, like conjoined twins.
Yeah, conjoined twins.
Yeah, like owl pellets and like.
Girl, I've had some weirder stuff than that. That's for sure.
Yeah, so when did you start becoming like an oddities collector and like start also offering it to people?
I've always loved weird stuff. I mean, I grew up loving paranormal and ghosts and like anything cryptid or anything that was unexplained. I wanted to research. I had to know, you know, what else is out there. So I've always been weird. I've always been the weird girl. And then when I realized I wanted to start going into business for myself, because I'm tired of slaving away for the man people who don't care, if you're living or dying, it was my passion. I'm like, why not bring people something that I love, And luckily there is a growing need for weird stuff. People like it. And so I love picking. I love treasure hunting. I feel like a modern day female Indiana Jones, like that is my goal in life.
Yes.
Finding these weird things. So just whenever I go on vacation, whenever Chris and I go anywhere, I drag him to the thrift store. I drag him, to an estate sale or whatnot. So we're always checking out for weird stuff. When we went to Mexico on a cruise, I brought back a shark head. So here I am in Mexico trying to get a stinky ass shark head across the border.
Oh my God.
I did, but I feel bad for everyone around me because I know it smelled like literal death fish funk. It was horrible, but worth it,
What's been like one of your best finds where you're like, I can't believe I had that in my possession at one point?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. I mean, I currently have human bones, which is a pretty cool one to me.
Oh, wow.
I like knowing I'll preface where I got them from, so there's no speculation.
Grave robbing over here.
I got a disarticulated medical school skeleton, and they pieced it out and sold it off. So I bought some of those.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I found crazy stuff. I went to a estate sale here locally in Merced that was it was a lady, but she called herself a doll hospital. So we go... Mind you, I love and hate dolls. Like, they frighten me to the core. I have a deep respect for them because I feel if I close my eyes long enough, they could take over my body. They could kill me. We grew up with like did you ever remember hearing about at a slumber party where the China doll would come to life with her long nails and kill people?
No.
Okay, well, that's what I grew up with in my slumber parties, the story of the China doll.
I've heard of that, like the Furbies come to life. Like that's what I grew up with.
See, and that was, you're younger than me, so that would have been equivalent to this, but like the China dolls. So she had a doll hospital. We walked through her house, and it was kind of a normal old lady house, tchotchkes everywhere, glass and weird, owls and stuff. Then we go into the back, and it's literally floor to ceiling, multiple like rooms/garages with dolls. And I'm talking doll heads, doll parts, crazy, like
doll limbs,
racist dolls. I was
God.
Let's cover these ones up, lady. Like just the craziest any doll that has ever existed. I bought a Macaulay Culkin doll from her.
Oh my God.
Or not her, but from her estate sale. So it's just the weirdest stuff, and I love those. Like, where else are you going to go to a doll hospital estate sale and bring home a box of parts. I mean, I bought limbs, I bought heads, just like the most random doll parts.
I think one of my favorite stories is you had, I can't remember if it was like a prosthetic arm or leg that you sold and it was like haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story of it was basically, a prosthetic from, I want to say the early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. It had a leather glove on it, and it had an attachment that would like strap on with leather right here, and then it had a latch that would open and close the hand, which is just, like, I can't even imagine. But my dad, the Christian man he is, found me this weird old hand and said, hey, I think my daughter would like this. And he was right. I mean, of course. But eventually I was like, oh, I'm going to put it in a box. I'm going to put it on display. But when we did my liquidation, I sold it to my friend Amber. Sorry, Amber. I didn't know it was creepy, like more creepy than a severed arm. But their family kind of felt funky about having it. And I get a phone call from her one night, and I turn my phone off, of course. So I get it in the morning, and they wanted to return it to me because they felt weird vibes off of it. And mind you, they had it in their garage for a while. So I was like, of course. But what she had done is they didn't get a hold of me that night, and they wanted to get rid of it so fast that they put it on the steps of a random church downtown, which just happened to be the church right next to my apartments.
Wow.
So she tells me that, and I'm like, when did you put it out there? And because Merced downtown, you never know who's going to pick it up. You're going to see it on a, unhoused person's cart later or whatever.
Yeah.
But I ran to the steps, and it was still there.
Wow. They inadvertently returned it to you.
Yeah. I resold it. I wasn't trying to have a haunted, appendage in my apartment or anything, but it's gone now. Someone else's problem.
Speaking of haunting, so one of the cool events that Abracadabra, or AKA you, put on are the ghost tours in Merced. People really love those. And I mean, David and I have done a private one, and they are so cool. But how do you feel about ghost hunting? Like, when did that... You said you've always liked paranormal and ghosts and things like that, but when were you like, I think I'm going to start offering these as tours, and like, how have you felt about them?
So I would say like my investigating has happened more recently, definitely in moving into this building, because there's just been undeniable energy and undeniable stuff happen that happens, but I don't know why or what's causing it to happen. So a lot of it is just curiosity. Curiosity is going to kill this cat for sure. I guarantee you it's going to be me investigating something weird that's going to be the death of me. But I like having other people experience it too, because one, as I was mentioning earlier to you, I think different energies in this building bring different stuff out when we're doing it. So say somebody's clairvoyant or clairsentient or something like that, they're able to get different stuff walking through this place than I would. So I love hearing that. And I took one of my friend's kids, two of their kids, on a little kid version of my ghost hunt, which was rad. I love that. I'm like the spooky auntie I want everyone to have. But the girls were going through, and one of the girls said she saw a ghost. So I said, okay, draw it on this paper for me. I want to know what you saw. So she put it down, and I said, describe what you saw. And it was so adorable. She drew it all out and had the picture of what she saw. And then I saw her in this type of a hat and blah, blah, blah. So it's just really neat to compile the stories of this building and kind of compare them and see what we think is just random or what we think is still walking around or enjoying this space with us.
Yeah. So when we were trying to get our city permit to have our recording studio, they were trying to make us jump through so many hoops, and that included like getting blueprints of this building. And I was like, what the heck? Luckily we were able to like argue our case and not have to do that. But yeah, you're just such a historian of like all the history of Merced, including the paranormal history, which I love. But yeah, putting our heads together, we were able to find out that this building was built in 1911, and it had like maybe some underground tunnels during like Prohibition, which, side note, if you think about it, I feel like Prohibition's back with the trade war and like, well, we're not gonna buy your wine. Well, we're not gonna sell you booze. I'm like, all right, we're in the mid-20s. There's an alcohol problem. Close enough. Welcome back, Prohibition.
Back around, yeah. Well, we'll open up the tunnels and then start our own process all over again 100 years later.
Yeah, but you just have like such a great collection of like Merced history, which is why I was like, I gotta pick your brain about all of these things. Yeah, but how are you feeling about Merced today? I feel like now we have so many cool businesses, so many cool events. Like, how are you feeling about Merced now?
It's like a love-hate thing with my Merced. I grew up here. It's pretty much all I've ever known. I've seen it grow so much in my lifetime. I mean, we had new high schools popping up. We had all these Target came while I was growing, and that was like, Target's here kind of thing. Like, wow! And now we're getting Chick-fil-A. Woo! You know, all the Christian places. But anyway, it's grown so much. With that growth comes a lot of stuff that I don't love, unfortunately. I mean, it's hard because I'm such an advocate of Merced. I want everyone to love this town. I want this to be the best little town that it can be, but it's so hard because there's so many outside influences that I don't like. Like, we're getting, the unhoused population has gotten crazy, and for me, it's never been about who's unhoused or who isn't. It's about the rampant, drug and mental illness problem that we have. And I want everyone to come downtown. I want everyone to enjoy all these really cool spots that are opening up. You know, all these young people that are starting new businesses and all these ventures that were never here before. I'm so down for it. It's so awesome. But I'm really nervous about safety, you know? And I can't tell all these young UC girls to come down and, hey, come down and take this class when I'm worried about them taking the bus here and getting harassed by, some whacked out person around the corner. So it's hard because I want to promote and I want to do all this stuff and I want Merced to be the best place it can be. But it's just got a lot of negativity to it right now. I mean, every time we turn on the news or local stuff, it's somebody getting stabbed, somebody getting shot, dumb stuff, hit and runs, people hitting. It's just gotten so crazy. So that aspect of it is nothing we ever dealt with growing up.
Interesting.
I mean, there was crime. You'd get in trouble. I got a jaywalking ticket. That was crime back in the day.
Wow.
Jaywalking ticket. Now, it's insane the stuff we hear every day. I wake up and I read those recently booked to Merced. So if you're on there, I'm catching you. But and now it's not just petty theft or somebody. It's insane stuff, and it's just getting worse and worse. So that part worries me, and I would love to help find a solution for it. I've contacted Mr. Serrato, our mayor. I've tried to get in contact with some of the higher ups. I'm not a political girl, so it's, going to city council meetings is not my comfort zone. I'm trying to teach myself to get out of that because I want to advocate for people. I want to be there for people who can't speak or are too scared to speak or whatever. So it's something I'm trying to get myself to be more active in, but Merced's changing for good and bad.
Yeah, something that I find that as a woman, no matter what city it is, because unfortunately as a country, our mental health is going down the drain. So whether you're in Merced, LA, SF, I feel like that's unfortunately a problem everywhere. But it's really finding community that helps us rise above that, feel safe, even in sketchy situations. And speaking of feeling safe, I was in the broom closet for a long time, but after meeting you and therefore meeting other people that would come to your shop, and I was like, okay, people aren't as recluse or conservative as I thought. I really feel in my evolution story, you really helped give me the courage to like, you know, start this podcast and like open an in-person location. And like, I just love that through community, like we can inspire each other and help each other grow. So yeah, you're definitely one of the people that has been most inspirational and helped me so much. So thank you for, you know, using your voice authentically and, you know, staying true to yourself. But it's always a work in progress to be who am I and how can I be a better version of myself? Yeah.
Merced's been a hard spot to come out of the broom closet, like you say. It's a very religious town, and especially moving back here in 2000, they're really, I mean, Hot Topic would be considered like the satanic store of Merced back in the 2000s, you know, like they would sell Marilyn Manson t-shirts and God forbid that was going to bring everybody to hell. But strength in numbers. So in opening up myself to that and coming out and being more comfortable and being spiritual, it was able to bring you, which brought other people and just kind of strengthened our little core group of people, which continues to grow and continues to bring in more people. Yeah.
So what are you going to, or do you have any ideas as to maybe what Abracadabra will do to continue to build community? Like, do you want to talk about maybe some of the workshops that you've done in the past that you're thinking about maybe bringing back?
Yeah, totally. That's at the moment, I mean, I still have my shop upstairs and I still like to open sporadically, you know, to pop up when I'm available to, and for business as far as like selling things, or I sell online. But a lot of what I find, I don't like doing things that don't serve my soul. You know, like it's hard for me to just be a humdrum every day going through the motions. If I don't feel it, then it's hard for me to do it. So focusing on things that I enjoy, like the classes and events, is what I've been kind of gearing Abracadabra towards right now. So we've been doing a lot of classes recently. We just did what was my last class?
You did like an owl pellet.
Oh, yeah. See, I mean, that's just weird stuff that I love. We had some kids, we had some adults. I want to offer things that you're not going to really find here in the Central Valley. The cool thing is this is becoming more popular. There's a lot of people hosting classes, and you've been able to find. Patty had a rad tea party, you know, a fairy tea party. You have cannabis-friendly events where you're, what was it, pot and paint or something like that, you know? So you're having a lot of different style events and classes. I don't want to go to a bar. I'm not a bar girl, but I want to be able to be social. I want to be able to do things that are fun and learn new things. So classes and events are the way to do that for me. So we've been trying to gear, you know, things like I said, the taxidermy classes or the bug pinning classes, things you're just not going to find every day here in town. Yeah, so to recap some of the latest things that Abracadabra has done. So yeah, the taxidermy classes with like the owl pellets or like the scorpion pinning. You did a Victorian braid locket class where you basically can braid some hair and keep it as like a memento, which people used to do back in like the Civil War era to like remember each other. The ghost tours for sure. You've done some art shows. We did a protection magic class together. Like just anything fun and different, Sarah's gonna do it. So how can people stay up to date with what you're doing? The easiest thing is to follow me on social media. I'm trying to branch out and get into Patreon, having a Patreon. I'm trying to, this is me getting out and learning how to use a camera and the microphone. How to be in public and how to be recorded. Because I would like to be able to do stuff where I tell stories about the things I find. I mean, I have so many. That's the thing I miss about having the store is when somebody would come up to the counter and they'd bring Beanie Baby Guy that I've been playing with this whole time. I'd go, you know where I found this? I bought this from this strange guy. It is, you know, and that's part of the fun is finding out where that object came from, the history behind it, the story. Yeah. So if I do a live show of that, that could be a fun way for people to hear my random tales of the treasures I find.
Yeah, definitely. I think a live like sales show would be really awesome with you. And just also when your shop is open, come check her out. Because you're always gonna be surprised with what you find.
What's on the table?
Yeah. There's cute stuff, there's cool band stuff, there's creepy stuff, and then there's just straight up unique stuff. So yeah, definitely check out Sarah. You're on Facebook, Instagram, and you started a TikTok.
I did start a TikTok.
Yeah.
The TikTok's a little more personal, like if you just want to see me craft or whatnot. But the other ones are shop based. So you'll get information on what's coming up in the future months, if I'm going to be open anytime in particular, or just anything that's going on with the shop.
Yeah, and I will link all of her socials in the description because it's kind of a mouthful, and sometimes people are like, how do you spell abracadabra? So don't worry about mistyping it. It'll be like on the Instagram post, in the show notes, and all of that. But yeah, I am so happy to be sharing space because we're both upstairs within Luna. And yeah, I hope that we can continue to, coexist and like work in the same community and just bring the good vibes so that people know that they could be authentically themselves, and there are people that will accept them and are little weirdos just like them.
Yes.
There are other weirdos in Merced. You're not alone.
I promise. I promise. There's plenty. Any type of weirdo you are, there's others.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your experience. Yes. So definitely check out Sarah at her next workshop or next time she opens a store.
Yay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. That's it for this episode of Experience Exchange. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.